Here is my crazy Encanto theory. In the town where Pedro and Alma first met, there lived a traditional Incan medicine man who operated with the quiet blessing of the local liberal-minded priest. This medicine man was the one who sent the butterfly that first drew Pedro and Alma's eyes towards each other. After they were married, he confirmed her pregnancy and told her to expect triplets. He also told them of a place in the mountains of unusual magical power, which might be able to protect them if the rumors of civil war turned out to be true. Indeed, the rumors of war did turn out to be true, and the medicine man's home was among the first to be firebombed, and he was killed. And so Pedro and Alma led their friends, neighbors, and all who could follow them into the mountains, hoping to find this place. They arrived there just as the bad guys were overtaking them, and Pedro realized that the only way to get the magic that would protect them was to make a sacrifice, so he made one. Pedro's sacrifice, combined with Alma's anguished prayer, gave rise to a power which, I believe, settled within her and not the candle. The reasons I believe this are because whatever provided such power would, I think, rather entrust the source of such magic to a living soul, perhaps with safeguards to ensure that the magic would never be used, rather than an inanimate object that could be lost or stolen. Also, at times Alma showed much deeper knowledge of what the magic seemed to be expecting than if she were simply the keeper of a magical artifact. She also seemed to show control over the casita. If I'm correct, then Mirabel had always been meant to be Abuela's successor, and within her was born a new source of magic, which, if her ceremony had gone the way it should have, would have joined with the existing magic, supplementing it, and in time taking over as Abuela grew older and eventually passed. Unfortunately, Alma was terrified that if her heir and successor were known, that she would be cast out. Remember, after the attackers had been driven off and the mountains rose up, everyone was just staring at Alma. It then faded to a scene of her alone in a darkened room with just a candle and her 3 babies for company. And look where everyone else built their homes, almost half a mile from the casita, instead of around the woman who had led them to the sanctuary, who had apparently had a hand in averting a massacre. Because of all this, Alma came to believe that her family was valued only for their magical abilities, and that she was valued only as the keeper of that magic. She was afraid to share that position, and that fear caused her to subconsciously disrupt Mirabel's gift ceremony, resulting in her door disappearing and the candle flickering. By the time Mirabel turned 15, most of the family was aware that there were problems, but they were in denial about them. It wasn't until she saw cracks in the casita that Mirabel began to realize that it wasn't just her imagination, that she was not the only one hurting. When Bruno went into hiding, his door went dark, and it is because I think he had severed himself from his family, from his mother, the source of the magic. When Mirabel convinced him to have a new vision, she was with him during the entire process, the setup, the vision itself, the completion. She was holding his hands the whole time. As a result, they were forming a connection between Bruno and the new source of the magic, and that is why his door started to light up again. She did not like the idea of giving Isabella a hug, but Mirabel responded to the vision with more maturity than just about any other person had before to any of Bruno's visions. And so she did it, and got a pleasant surprise. Isabella opened up to her, just as Luisa had opened up earlier that day. When Isabella and Mirabel finally opened up to each other, they finally gave each other a genuine hug. The cracks started to heal and the candle grew brighter. Mirabel saw this and realized that their family as a whole needed to be open about their problems or issues, about their feelings towards each other, and about the situation in general. But Abuela rejected it because it showed how she, the matriarch of the family, had failed in her most important responsibility, to create a supporting, affirming environment. She tried to blame Mirabel for everything that had gone wrong, but Mirabel was done playing the victim. Instead, she stood up for herself, her sisters, her uncle, the entire family, and called Abuela out for her behavior. Initially, Abuela tried to fight back, but the magic within her recognized the truth of Mirabel's words and broke under the force of that truth. As I earlier said, the candle was probably not the source of the magic, but still, Mirabel's efforts to retrieve it were important in that it forced Abuela to see the girl whom she had been treating with such utter disdain for the past 10 years, risking her life to save what they believed was the source of their family's purpose for existence. To see the casita doing everything it could to help her, even as it pushed everyone else out, and to use the last of its life to shield her from falling debris. All the while, to hear Mirabel's parents calling to her to forget about the candle and get out. All this, only to see the candle die out anyway, plunging the family into the darkest time they had known in the past 50 years. It was only then that Abuela would have no choice but to face what an utterly broken woman she had been since the death of her husband. When Mirabel heard the entire story, she responded as she always did, by being emotionally supportive. Abuela knew at that moment that not only would the family continue, but that she herself would not be cast out. Then she truly embraced her heir and successor, and thus restarted the ceremony that had been disrupted 10 years before, a ceremony that was completed several months later when Mirabel placed the doorknob, the final piece, into the new casita. Magic flowed from her out into the building and out through the rest of the valley, restoring the gifts. But that's just my opinion. What do the rest of you think?